scene as it was set for you, you were out there with your friends. You had Kat on the deck who you joined. Thalo with her arm around Coturnen, who was distraught.
Yeah.
And you were there as well, sort of following up behind everyone as time had frozen, and you're all in a sand ship that has locked into space mid-moment, mid-little dip up into the air very briefly.
Mm.
You know, on a sort of an angle, you can feel like as you're sort of stepping, like the incline, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Orange just sort of appeared, and he's sort of perched on like the very end of the ship, like at the bow, like right at the sort of the tip. And as he sort of looks at all of you, it's this sort of moment of like, what's Ashara feeling in this moment?
I mean, she's played off Orange in her normal way, but she's definitely feeling nervous. There's been a lot of build up to potentially when they would next see Orange, and the recent odd behaviors in that he hasn't appeared a few times now. She's nervous with the side of probably too casual.
You have this moment where all of you sort of greet each other, and he is, as every other time that you have met him, probably way too affable for the situation. He sort of steps down off this bow, the sort of the protective kind of barrier around the ship. He just sort of steps off that onto the wood, and the wood doesn't creak under his foot because he's not really as present in the world as you guys are. He's not really here, sort of, but he is.
Sure.
And he sort of approaches all of you, and then you sort of blink, and it only really takes a blink and a moment, and you and him are standing on the ship alone.
Say Shara gives a little start at that.
And he sort of smiles at you and he says, I'm real sorry, that was probably something I should have warned you ahead of time that was going to happen. Things are a little bit all over the place right now. Everyone's fine. We're all fine. We're just...
Okay.
I exist across potentialities, and sometimes when I interact with people who don't, that can get a little bit tricky. So it looks like we're just sort of in a little bubble at the moment. It's okay. You'll be fine.
All right. I think I partially track that.
Think of it like you've taken a little detour off the garden path, but the path only has one direction. You're going straight back to the timeline with everyone else.
Okay.
A temporary divergence.
Sure.
And, I guess in the meantime, the advantage is that we get to talk.
All right. I suppose I'm all ears. What are we talking about?
I don't know. Is there anything that you would like to talk to me about?
Oh, Orange, there's always things I would like to talk to you about. But I feel like this is a special occasion.
He sort of laughs and he says, yeah, well, look, this definitely isn't the way that I wanted to have things go down. There was a much grander plan originally. There was a speech. There was a cool glass dragon. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want them to. You know what I mean?
Oh, the glass dragon isn't going to happen? Oh.
Probably not, no.
Oh.
Things got real disrupted recently. There's been a lot going on. It's... As much as I hate to say it, you guys are absolutely my favorites, but, I've got a lot of, little bits and pieces going on right now, and...
Sure. I know how that goes. Things never go as you expect.
No. And, you would think for someone like me, that would be something that, you would expect to not be expected, or you would expect things to go exactly a particular way, but that's not how it works. I think
did get the impression, given that when we met you, it wasn't actually the first time meeting you, that things do not go as you expect them to either.
They happen out of order. They happen... I don't exist on your timeline.
Sure.
That's not how I work. Under normal circumstances, that's not how I work. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
And to that end, you'd think that I'd be able to predict things, but that's not really how it is. It's always probabilities, you know?
So what was the probability of it coming to this point?
Oof. Like this specific point from the point that we met, or this specific point from the beginning of all things, or this specific point from when?
Let's go from when we met. I feel like that's probably the simpler of the many options.
Oh, yeah, no, it makes sense. Let's see. I would say I'm kind of surprised in a few ways. Like, he sort of begins to walk with you, and you guys sort of, like, assuming that you follow him, like, you guys begin to sort of walk down. He's like, don't get me wrong, like, when you ended up on the wrong side, you having to come back, you sort of had, like, one of three major paths that you could have taken. You yourself are not a risk taker, so the chances that you were going to charge right back across a strange, unknown, magical, hellscape of some kind seem pretty unlikely to me. On top of that, Thalo's herd was always going to pull you in a particular direction. So you guys ending up on a ship, that's not that uncommon, I guess. I was not surprised by that. But there's so many other little things that have changed and were things that I wasn't expecting.
Interesting.
And hey.
I think I'm pleased to know that I can surprise someone as seemingly unsurprisable as yourself. But I'm not actually sure if that's a good thing in this scenario. You are giving the impression that maybe it's not a good thing. What with the lack of glass dragon and all?
The lack of glass dragon is just my absolute unmitigated disappointment that I don't get to have fun presentation. Which is just, what's even the point, right?
Oh, I entirely understand the need for good presentation.
But, and he sort of, like, perches himself. He goes, you have always been very insightful in all the times that I've known you, Ishara. Very much like that about you. Often when I interact with mortals, there is sort of one of three ways it goes. You get the ones who immediately assume that I'm a genie, which...
Not
like in the... They don't, like, start asking me to grant wishes, but there is that inherent sense of, you're all-powerful, can't you fix everything? And the answer is no, because that's not how it works. There are the ones who just want to know stuff.
Yeah.
That's common. Very rarely the people that I talk to like me. Do they want to talk to me? And I don't hold that against mortals, don't get me wrong. You guys are what you are. You can't help it. We don't share much of a common perspective. It makes it very difficult for us to relate.
I suppose.
But I appreciate the ones who try.
I suppose I simply start from a point of thinking that most beings I meet are people. Whatever they are. People.
Interesting. Sort of thinks. Sort of tilts his head back and forth and he goes, can I confess something to you?
Kara sort of holds her hands out like, well, no one else is going to hear.
He kind of laughs. He goes, Ashara, you very astutely pointed out that things are not correct right now. That something's not right. Maybe you just read into my particular reactions and you think that I think it's not right and therefore it's not, but you are correct. There's something not quite... Okay, how to explain this, but... I am a being, for lack of a better word, who exists horizontally. And you are a being that exists primarily vertically. which is to say you exist in a period of time
Hmm.
within a space, and you proceed in that very narrow band, but you have that limited perspective, whereas I exist simultaneously across the entire timeline, if that makes sense.
All right.
Under normal circumstances.
Hmm.
It doesn't make me omniscient. I exist in a lot of those points. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily aware of every single event that transpires. It doesn't mean that I know how it's going to end. It just means that I am present at all possibilities. And that's true for most universes that I have been present for.
Hmm.
Not this one. This one, there's something wrong with it.
Yes.
I'm stuck in the present.
Oh.
Except under very unusual circumstances, which are a real pain in the ass to get sort of figured out. Which, don't get me wrong, I can do it, but like, this should be as easy as breathing for me, and I'm having to really wrangle around some loopholes to, be able to, set up a very simple, stable time loop, for example.
So, I suspect if I ask why, am I going to be able to understand the answer?
He sort of thinks and he goes, to be honest, it's something that's a little bit beyond me as well. I have my suspicions, but I don't know 100% why things have ended up this way. What I do know is that this is not sustainable. Look, you probably think of me as like some avatar of time, or like, a shepherd of time, a god of time, maybe. I'm not any of those things. I am time.
You are time?
For all intents and purposes, it's the simplest way to explain it. So, if I can't proceed past the present, that causes some inherent instability in timelines and some other stuff that's going to go on. And like, don't get me wrong, it's not necessarily going to be something that happens even in your lifetime, but it projects a very sudden, very sad, and very cruel end to this universe.
That's what the cat said.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Dragon of the K.
No. He had said the end was coming faster than it should. For all things.
Shara. He gets down and kind of pops himself down into sits down on his knees so that he's sort of on almost equal ground with you. Like he's in the form of a human, so he's taller than you by nature, but he puts himself into this position and he just sort of you're sort of on equal goes. He goes, you remember that you owe me a favor.
I am aware.
I'm going to ask that favor of you now.
Well, you have given me some small warning of what you're going to ask. Not the specific, but the impact. So I am listening carefully.
The favor that I'm going to ask of you is that you listen very carefully to my next request, that you give it fair and careful consideration.
All right.
That's all.
Okay.
Ishara, I can't have this conversation with Coturnen because he's too young. He's a child. He's never going to be able to look past the fact that there might be a solution to a problem because that's the kind of person he is. He's an engineer. Thalo is a child. She's never going to look past the fact that she is Fae. Fairies, they tend to find impossible problems puzzles. And I just don't see her being the kind of person willing to make these choices. I don't think it's even fair to be asking it of her. Believe me, as I said, I don't get a lot of opportunities to make requests like this. I don't know much about your new friend, but I don't know, she's a mother. So.
Alright.
You are someone who serves a god of painful truth. Ashara, your universe, through no fault of any person currently living in it, was born wrong. The universal cycle is supposed to end and begin completely. The old universe passes, that's just the nature of it, it dies, and then there is a new birth at the end when there is nothing left. It is a cycle. Your universe began before the old one ended, and much like a baby trying to grow inside its dead mother's body, it is inherently poisoned and festering and dying. Left unattended, your universe is going to sputter out. Everyone in it is going to suffer and die. The instabilities that you're seeing, the separation, many other things. He gestures out towards the south, in the general direction of what you know is probably the Badlands. He goes, that, many things. Shara, there is something deeply, deeply wrong here, and it needs to be fixed.
All right.
And it can't be me. Sort of. I am not of your universe, I am time. I can't make this decision, it's not fair.
Okay. You're going to have to ask directly. Because I'm hearing what you're saying, but I want to hear the question.
I understand. Ishara, with your help I can bring this universe to a peaceful end, and all things in it will perish. But they will perish in a way that is kinder than what's awaiting for them, if we just let things take their course.
I would very much like to roll an insight check on all of that.
I'm going to allow that with disadvantage because he is a little guy.
I feel like that's the opposite of what he is.
I didn't know what else to say.
Okay, the first roll is an 18. And the second roll is a 13. So that's a 22.
Okay. 22 is not bad. As he looks at you, with a 22, all I am going to say to you is that the hair stands up on the back of your neck. That's all you're getting.
Is this the kind of thing I have time to consider?
Not really. There's a small window and it's closing. But if you help me with it, there is something I can do for you in turn. I told you before, I'm horizontal, you're vertical. We exist in different axes. I can probably, and I can't guarantee it, but I promise I'll do everything in my power. I could send you back within your own timeline. You could live out the life that you could have had with your brother and your mother on the ships down below. It's something I'll try and do for all of you.
I don't think I would accept that. That would make me someone other than who I am. I do not wish to be anyone other than who I am.
I thought it would be a nice thing to offer.
For some. But I don't know that I would be a person who you would be posing this to if I wanted those kinds of illusions.
It wouldn't be an illusion.
No.
You'd really be there with them, but it wouldn't be... It would be a closed loop.
Yes.
There'd be a deadline. I don't know, for some people that would be a lot. For others, nothing.
What's the time like? Bringing things to a close.
I need you to leave this ship and come with me south. I know, it's not much time.
It's not.
When I told you it was cruel, when I told you what it was asking of would make you hate me, all of those things, I very much understood that this would not be a decision that you would be able to take lightly.
I don't hate you. That is... subscribing fault, where it does not sound like it lies. But I also don't know if I can go. I don't know if I can oblige your request. I think if I was a cleric of the ferryman, I would. Peaceful, natural end. I think that would appeal to them. But as you said, that is not what I am. I follow a god of terrible truths and terrible fears and terrible pains. And if what we're headed to is terrible, and I don't think I want to look away from it. I don't think I'm necessarily opposed to that.
Are you willing to damn every other living thing? Ishara, you're right that you might be ready for it. I don't know if they are. Nikolay?
Yes. I know.
Even your boyfriend? Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Now that was a rare event.
I believe it. And yes, I think I would. I'm not kind. Not really. I can be compassionate. But I've never been particularly inclined to be kind. Or look away. I'm sorry, I know that is not what you want. And I'm not...
It's not.
I'm not going into this thinking that I could fix what you're talking about. It sounds wildly above mortal heads.
You'd think that, wouldn't you? And yet here we are.
Yes.
It's disappointing, Ashara, but I don't know if it's surprising.
I would apologize, but I'm not sorry, per se.
No, you're not, are you?
For what it's worth, I don't
Char-
hate you for asking it. I still quite like you.
I really do appreciate that. Because I really quite like you. But this was always a Hail Mary. All 4 of you at the time, 3 now.
Hmm.
You're mortal.
We are.
There is so much of you that is primal and screaming and attached to the concept that the world will continue on forever.
Oh, no.
You can't handle when things end. You just can't.
I don't think the world continues forever.
Maybe not you, Ashara, but
What happens? You said universes are born from universes. This one is wrong. This one ends in some terrible, painful way. Is the next universe able to be born? Is that what's at the root of this? If this ends in some unnatural way, does the next one not start?
I don't know. I don't know what happens when this universe ends. I just know that it's going to end. And he sort of gets up and smiles at you, puts a hand on your shoulder. This is probably the moment that he has felt the most tangible to you in a very long time. Like, it's the first time you feel like you're actually, like, interacting with another person as opposed to, like, a hologram or a hard light kind of situation. He sort of smiles at you and he says, the biggest problem I have always had, Ashara, is that at the end of all things, it was always just him and me. And if I don't fix this, it's just going to be me. It's nothing personal. But
I know. I'm not taking
Well.
it personally.
I'm really glad to hear that, thank you. I'm not taking you personally either. But you shouldn't have let me separate you from Coturnen.